Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of Big League Flicks, a sports movie podcast. I'm Jamie McKinnon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Christian Webster and Jordan Reed. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Doing great, boys. Georgetown with the big W. Just going into the finals of the Big East tournament. Gonna win. Gonna get into the tournament, and it's gonna be Georgetown basketball back and better than ever. Jr.
Webb's happy because Georgetown's actually going to play a meaningful few games for the first time in years.
In March.
Since Syracuse maybe left the Big East, they haven't played a meaningful game. So Cuse is going to be okay. They got eliminated at their tournament, but they're going to be okay. They're going to get a wild card bid, and they'll do great in the tournament. Great to be here, everybody.
Yeah, we got a good one this week. Taking it back to our childhood, this was it's funny because this movie came out in 1992, but it seems like it doesn't seem that long ago. I can remember when this movie was in the theater, and there were some movies around that time that just seemed like they were much older than this one. But this week we're doing a hockey movie, and we're starting out with a legendary classic, which is the very first Mighty Ducks movie.
From Walt Disney Pictures, he's a hotshot attorney who's never lost.
Yes!
Forced to coach a hockey team that's never won.
Keep swinging, maybe he'll give him a cold.
He'll try to teach them how to win.
You think losing is funny? Well, not at first, but once you get the hang of it.
And they'll teach him
Get off the roof, you little monkey!
that winning isn't everything.
Let's have fun out there.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Emilio Estevez.
Are we ducks or what?
The Mighty Ducks. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Well, you guys know the routine. Every week, we got to crack a nice cold beer before we get into our review. So without further ado, let's get into our Brew review.
Beer her, oder ich bald mir hey. Ice cold beer, yeah?
So what are we drinking tonight, Webb?
Well, boys, tough one tonight. There were many beers to choose from, but we decided since we're going back to our childhood, we better go back to where it all began, and that's our dad's beer fridge. So this week, similar to what we did when we did Varsity Blues, we decided that the fellows would each pick the first beer that they may or may not have swiped from the old man's beer fridge when they were a child. So when they're right around the time Mighty Ducks was probably coming out in our childhood, we were sneaking into the old Pop's beer fridge and grab one. So JR, why don't you kick us off first?
Well, everybody, as many of you know, I grew up in the east coast of Canada, and I have a pretty tight family connection. My mom and dad were from a town called St. John, New Brunswick, and St. John, New Brunswick is the home to Moosehead beer, which is near and dear to my heart. And you were pretty hard pressed to not find a Moosehead in our fridge growing up. My aunt, she was a brewmaster there. My dad even worked at Moosehead at one point. My grandfather worked at Moosehead. Everybody worked at Moosehead, it seems, in my family. So a Moosehead beer, and I'm going to go with a Moosehead lager in this one. Sometimes Moosehead light, but these are all near and dear. So cheers, fellas.
I still think the Moose Light Lime is the best of those tacky lime beers.
Man, it just tastes like it always did. So, Moosehead Lager, you never let me down, whether on draft, can, bottle. I love it. What say you guys?
I'll go next. So I actually, the first beer I would have chosen based on this premise, we actually drank in an episode, or I drank in an episode earlier. I can't remember which one it was, but it was, I had picked OV, which is...
That was the Varsity Blues episode.
That's what it was. That's right.
It was your high school beer.
My high school beer. So that was the first beer that I would have taken out of my dad's fridge, because he did drink a lot of OV back then, old vagina. But this was another beer I remember him having, and I know he used to drink these because I remember him telling a story about how him and my mom went on their honeymoon, I think it was, and he remembers like sitting on the beach, and he used to have a big mustache back then, and he said he remembers sitting on the beach and drinking this beer with like salt on the rim, or some type of salt or something with it, and he remembers like the salt taste in his mustache while he's drinking these. And I'm talking about the Jamaican classic Red Stripe.
Nice.
So I do remember. I remember these bottles because they have those snub nose bottles. They're pretty sweet bottles back in the day. So.
Stubby.
Oh yeah.
Crack myself a nice red stripe, and it's a tasty Jamaican lager.
Well, boys, my choice this week will be no shock to the all the listeners in Cheektowaga County, and you can pick it up at any local tailgate around Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Can you get it
The best-selling Canadian beer, named for its label by fans of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, made from the finest Canadian barley malt, selected hops. It's fresh, it's crisp, with light fruit, sweet malt, toasted grain, citrus, and grassy hop notes. It's a great choice for backyard entertainment and light fare, and it's the proud sponsor of the NWHL Buffalo Believes Classic Outdoor Game that I believe was postponed due to COVID, but once that gets back up and rolling, will probably happen at some point. So I'm going with the one and only, the Blue.
Well done.
Nicely done.
Well
Nicely
done. Can't go wrong with that.
I remember Big Wayno maybe giving me a 6-pack of these for grade 8 graduation. Not to promote underage drinking, but cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers. So as we mentioned, this week we're doing The Mighty Ducks, directed by Stephen Herek, distributed in 1992 by Buena Vista Pictures. They got a 6.6 rating on Internet Movie Database, and only 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics kind of lambasted this one. Budget of $14 million, grossed $50.8 million at the box office, so a nice little return there. Music by David Newman, starring Emilio Estevez. Emilio! Joshua
And I was
Jackson.
like, Emilio!
Joshua Jackson, Heidi Kling, and Lane Smith. Quick movie synopsis. After being charged for drunk driving, hotshot lawyer Gordon Bombay is court-ordered to coach a Pee-wee hockey team. Bombay is very reluctant at first. However, he eventually gains the respect of the kids, helps them discover an identity, and teaches them how to win. In the finals, they face Bombay's old team and his old domineering coach, giving Bombay a chance to conquer old demons. Let's jump into our character review, and let's start it with our main guy, Gordon Bombay, played by Emilio Estevez.
Gordon Bombay. What do I say? There's a lot of traits of Gordon Bombay that I don't like, that a certain other host of this podcast made a video about. If you check out our YouTube page, there's a video on there that he really highlights a lot of traits that I don't like about Gordon Bombay as well. I also think he's a product of the crazy minor hockey experience, a la GTHL Chamber. He's Jamer's favorite league. So he's that crazy experience where that idea of winning at all costs, and it carried with him through life. And I think he learned a lot of the bad things that we don't really want kids to learn out of the minor hockey experience, and it kind of carried with him. So I think the scars of the young life, so to speak, get to him. I have some problems with him. I just don't find him. I think he just seems like such an entitled jerk often. I don't know how much he actually knows about hockey. I don't believe Basil McRae and Mike Modano when they said this guy was the man in Pee-wees. I don't think the Triple Deke is tight. Neither here nor there, but you know what? He tries to take a group of kids and grow them up, I guess, to District 5. He's only there to do his community service hours. I don't really think the reason he's there is a good idea, or a great cause. I always will go down in my mind as young me, where I like Coach Bombay, but the older I get, the less I actually realize how I don't like Coach Bombay. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't really have a great answer for him. Somebody, when that kid was in Pee-wee, get him some hockey pants and fit. Holy cow. And then Dad on the pond, take that scarf off that kid right now. Hold that thing.
Get him a bucket.
Get him a helmet.
Yeah, the Butch Goring helmet.
I think on a serious note, I think Emilio Estevez, though, was well cast for this role. Yeah. He's right off the 1980s heartthrob days, and they needed somebody with some pop for this movie to me. They needed a bigger name, and he's coming off some big movies in the mid to late 80s, and I think the casting of Estevez was great.
Yeah. Good flow.
I think Estevez was fine. Yeah, he was fine in the role. Great flow, good-looking guy.
Not a flow, but good flow.
Yeah, well, it's true. I think Estevez did a good job as doing it. The character itself, I wasn't a huge fan. But Estevez did a nice job, and I like how they used his popularity coming off those 80s movies. Those weren't that long ago, 5-6 years out on a few of them. So I think he was still pretty relevant. Anyway, those are some of the things that I kind of had on him. There's a couple of things I'll touch on in the Realism Fate review, but that's neither here nor there, Webb.
I'm going to keep this short and defer most of my time to Jamer because I know he's got a lot to say on Gordon Bombay. I'm just going to say the guy needs some serious psychiatric help. The fact that he's letting whatever his name is, the Hawks coach, Christ, I can't even remember now. Letting Riley take up that much free space in his brain all these years later is pretty sad, to be quite honest with you, and needs to get over it. So, the guy's kind of a scumbag. I'm similar to you, JR. It was funny. I said last night in watching this movie, I have to remember that this movie is made for kids. So there's a certain way you got to kind of watch it and not be too complete jackass Grumpy Webb. But not a huge fan of Gordon Bombay as an adult, and as a man, I think he's kind of pathetic. So I'm going to leave it at that. And Jamer, I'm going to turn it over to you. Yeah.
No, I think JR, you touched on a lot of the stuff. Yeah, he's at his heart, he's kind of a selfish prick, and it has a lot to do with his background and his father's death and what had happened the same year with Coach Riley. Coach Riley became his de facto kind of father figure after his dad passed away, and the way he mistreated him really left long-lasting scars on his psyche the rest of his life. Right, obviously. We talked about that. And what JR was mentioning is we have on our YouTube channel, we have a compilation we put together called Gordon Bombay's a Scumbag. So check it out if you want to get some more. And I won't get into all the in-depth stuff there, but it's kind of a funny little tongue-in-cheek. Can
I just jump in for a sec, James? Can we really say that Riley really messed him up that bad? The kid missed a shot. And seriously, that's I don't know, what did he make sure that he never played hockey again? And we never actually hear how he messed him up.
Well, I think he quit, but I mean, at a young age where he's very impressionable, you could see some of the stuff, and you got to assume Riley probably softened over the years, right? We're talking 20 years prior. I suppose. And he was already on the bench, smashing kids on the head with the stick and screaming at them, I'm gonna cut you all. These are kids that are just scared to death of this guy, right? Coaches can mess kids up for sure.
This is I
don't doubt it, but I'm just saying he also has Hans as a father figure, and I'm sure Hans could have maybe put him on maybe he plays for the District 5 team.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I think this was but Gordon, you're supposed to have that redemption feeling with Gordon Bombay where, he does all these shitty things, makes a lot of shitty mistakes, but then he teaches these kids to fly, so to speak, and you're supposed to feel all warm.
Too.
I think, you're supposed to feel all warm-hearted. And like you mentioned, JR, as a kid, I did feel that way. I loved him at the end of it. But as an adult, I'm looking back on some of this stuff, and I'm like, some of this stuff, you had no choice but to do it, right? You know what I mean? You had no choice but to do the right thing, so to speak. And then
how much jail.
Yeah, and how much of the stuff that he started with Charlie was more about his mom than it was about him? He was trying to get into her pants, you know what I mean?
How about willingly taking all the kids into the mall and saying, "Go ahead, rollerblade down the stairs and go kill yourselves." And let's take the kid who can't skate and fire him into a mall full of people with rollerblades on.
Not to mention, there's no way that woman, that 80-year-old woman, got smoked into the fountain, didn't break a hip. You know what I mean? That's
she's not getting up clean from that. I'm sorry.
He's a juvenile, And then, how about in a Disney movie, they kind of gloss over this DUI that he gets at the beginning?
Yeah, it's just part of the process, I guess, to them. I don't know. The rest of the world, not cool.
And then, as a kind of a punishment, you're gonna have him teach kids. As a parent, do you really want this scumbag who just got a DUI and whatever coming in?
Let's not forget he's teaching kids how to cheat.
Yeah,
he shows them how to cheat as well.
Real ethical guy.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, let's jump into Charlie Conway, played by Joshua Jackson.
I like the character of Charlie Conway. I really don't mind that character. That somebody had to take on the leader of the captain of the team and the rise and the fall and the steadfast team first kind of person. That was needed. Remember, it was a kid's show, so you needed somebody though who could, stand up to the coach, but also have the ear of the team, kind of ins and outs of the team. Josh Jackson was fine. Charlie Conway, not the greatest player in the world, but for God's sakes, just put a helmet on. Can you just put a helmet on that kid? Like, why do you never have a helmet on? I don't understand. I never understood that when I was a little kid.
Why do they have kids on the bench all the time that don't have buckets on? I have a point about that later, but
yeah, we'll go on to that one. All that point later. I just put a couple things. Kaya. The last thing I'll add is grows up as the show goes on. I kind of like the commitment to the team of Charlie Conway. That was something as a little kid and as an adult when I watched him. I'm like, that's how to be a good teammate. That character displays some traits on how to be a good teammate. So I don't have anything too negative to say. Thought it was a good character. Good job by Josh Jackson, Canadian. And he did a great job, Webb.
I love Charlie Conway. He's your classic third liner. He goes in the corners. He grinds. He's a hell of a forechecker. He's always in there mixing it up, trying to get the puck loose. He's creative. A little bit of a spaz from time to time. Can't finish, but it is what it is. That's why he's on the third line. Great kid. Hell of a stylish kid. He seems to have the best gear on in the detention
Good
scene.
90s
That's
gear.
for sure. Yeah, classic.
Absolutely.
And he's got some sick '90s flow too. So
Sure does.
I mean, what can you say? Dude means well. Tries to look out for his mom. I like him.
Yeah, he's heart and soul. Let's move on to Hans, played by Joss Ackland.
Hans, what did I have for Hans? Oh, he did a good job just being the dad role. You know what? One of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite scene from the Mighty Ducks to this day still, is the shopping spree scene when they're going in and going nuts. I remember as a kid, I was like, that is the greatest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
And at his sports store, I always kind of remember that. And I always remember the scene of him sharpening the skates. I love that sound. Ken Gunner Garrett, Jamer, I loved listening to Gunner sharpen skates and just watching the skates and watching the sparks. I enjoyed that. So Hans was that good, calm role model. That's the actual better role model for Coach Bombay, but he did a good job calming things, of being that person of focus. You have to have somebody in there kind of navigating the waters or helping, some sort of mentor role for Gordon.
He was like the Hughes Pro Shop.
Yeah, Hughes Pro Shop.
Minus a few whiskeys,
Just a couple back. Yeah, I mean, that sound, I love that sound. I can never not. I love the sound. Just that whole sound going through reminds me of just some good days, Webb.
Yeah, it's funny. Minus all the sports equipment too. Every time I see this movie, and now as an adult, and I see Hans' shop, it reminds me of there's a bar in Kitchener-Waterloo called the Edelweiss, and it's very similar style setup. Everything else, I'm gonna guess Hans is not German. Well, maybe he is German. I don't know. I was gonna say he's Scandinavian or something, maybe too. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But very similar kind of feel to it, and if you threw all the like hockey equipment in the Edelweiss, it'd be a very similar setup. Love Hans. Hans has got my favorite line of the whole movie. When we get kind of first introduced to him, and when he's coming in there, and he's like, Bombay's like, why didn't you say hi? He's like, well, you were so busy screaming at the kids, I didn't want to spoil the moment.
It's like, nice little cutting remark.
Yeah, just pointing out what a dick Bombay is. So yeah, I don't know. He's probably my one of my favorite characters in this film, just because he just does nothing but help. It's hard not to root for him.
No, he's a great guy. So the actor Joss Ackland, I was trying to remember where he was a bad guy in something else, and it was Lethal Weapon 2. All
right.
Like, it's probably been a while since you guys saw that movie.
Oh yeah,
I've had to pull that one out of the woodwork, and I remember he was kind of like the villain in Lethal Weapon 2, and I was thinking that pro shop that he has, like when he first walks up to it, when Gordon's walking up the laneway to it, that thing's massive. It's like a huge castle.
It's cool looking.
So clearly Hans has got some of that drug money from Lethal Weapon 2. He's on the lam here. He's like, yeah, that's a fake name. So
he's probably laundering. He's laundering through the pro shop.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's nobody ever in the pro shop. It's just Charlie and whoever. Like, that's it.
And a ton of sweet Christian twigs.
Yeah,
Christian
those are
sticks.
wicked.
Say no to drugs. Remember they'd say no to drugs on it.
I had one that was like turquoise. It was sweet.
Mine was white and orange. It was the best.
So sweet.
I had a white, just a pure white one with black lettering. It was sick.
Nice.
Nice. Let's move on to Coach Jack Riley, played by Lane Smith.
This guy does a great job. Lane Smith, nice job of being the villain in this movie. The movie had to have some sort of a villain. And Yeah, he did a good job acting in this. Coach Riley, again, you have to have somebody in this role with so much feel good going on. Somebody has to be the problem, and somebody has to represent the force against, or the antagonist, I guess. And Coach Riley did it. We've all seen and heard, and there's coaches like this that exist. I thought that was a character who kind of realistic. People get carried away in minor sports back then, today especially. And nice job. The mind games, crazy coach, horrible mentor. And I wrote that we just needed a villain for this movie, and that was our villain. And we, all the quotes and the lines we'll get into that he says, but all right, and then that little collar pop.
Oh, I love
The collar pop.
That's pure villain, and I loved it. I thought it was a great character, very important and needed.
Yeah, you need him, like you said. He's a little over the top, obviously. There's coaches that we all know who are absolute pricks, but this guy takes it to a whole other level. The only thing I'm going to say about this guy, the only role that I remember him being just as good, if not better than his coach here, or his job as Coach Riley, is the dad in Pauly Shore's classic Son-in-Law.
Yes. I was going to mention Son-in-Law.
Some grindage.
Hey, do you have a screwdriver? I'm sorry, I'm all out of vodka. I love that.
You know who else is in Son-in-Law? Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Oh,
How are you now?
Martin scene, yeah.
Oh,
Wouldn't you? You know who I like
Kelly
better?
Kapowski.
Carla Gugino, or whatever. However
yeah.
you pronounce it.
Yeah,
Was she not Saved by the Bell too? She was on Saved by the Bell.
She probably was.
She was on the Summertime one when they worked at the Summertime Resort, wasn't she? Wasn't that her?
Oh,
And Zach's girlfriend?
No. That's
King of Queens,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The
Ramini.
Romania.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I got them mixed up. That's on me. Sorry.
Munching on some grindage. Oh, that movie's amazing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on Riley. He's. I want to ask you guys this: on a Bud Kilmer scale of 1 to 10, how many Bud Kilmers do you give him?
Go ahead, Webb. You go first on this one.
What's the max? 5?
10. We'll go out of scale.
10? I'd say he's high. He'd go at least 8, 8.5. Can't give him higher than Kilmer because he's not putting drugs in kids. But I'm gonna go 8.5 because he's just as much of a prick, if not worse. And the fact that he's deliberately telling like 12-year-olds to go out and like maim and injure kids, that's pretty bad.
I got him at an 8.
I have him at 8.8 because of that reason. He promotes huge checking from behind and smashing into goalposts at 12 years old. So I have him at 8.8.
He's the reason the kids have a stop sign on the back of their jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Pretty
Let's
much.
move on to Casey Conway, Charlie's mom, played by Heidi Kling.
I'll be brief on this one. You guys know I love a love story, so she provided the love interest for you. Needed Emilio. If you're gonna have Emilio Estevez in '92, hot off the '80s, you gotta have a love interest for Emilio Estevez too. And she did a great job, and it was important. You need somebody to tune up Coach Bombay once in a while, and you also needed somebody for Gordon Bombay to fall in love with. So, and then the Charlie angle. So that's all I have for that. She was great. She was fine.
She gives you the example of a strong working mom, right? Who I love the scene where basically Emilio's trying to run his game when they're out looking at the Ice Palace, and she's like, "No, Charlie comes first. He always comes first." Like, I think we've talked about characters like her before. Like, that's something we all respect. So I mean, it's nice to see that kind of consistency in character there. And I think she did a good enough job, and the casting was good. She's attractive enough, but believable that she could also be like that kind of like plain Jane kind of mom, right? Like, she's not super attractive. She's just like down to earth kind of girl. Yeah, tired girl next door, kind of good looking, right?
She looked tired, and she's like a single mom, which
yeah,
in Minneapolis, and
mind you, they had a pretty slick looking apartment, big decent sized looking apartment for a single mom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
working at a diner.
The diner. Yeah.
that was purchased before the Reagan era. I don't know.
There you go. Reaganomics.
Are there any other notable characters you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I got to go Banks, just a stud. Forever a stud is Banks.
Oh, good.
the ultimate cake eater, but at the same time, just a stud.
I was gonna
Puts the
say,
Ducks over the top.
he's up there. He's your modern day Austin Matthews.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going Aberman strictly for the sick Reebok pumps that he's pumping in the scene where they put in the dog shit in the purse. And he's got some pretty good one-liners.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to Gerald Ducksworth, which was the partner, like the
quack, Mr. Ducksworth.
law firm partner. I know he's supposed to be viewed as some kind of a villain in this. I liked him. I think he was right. I think when he fires Bombay, he's right about that too. And here's my take about that whole situation. I didn't like what Gordon Bombay did with Adam Banks. I think that was bullshit. I think that was underhanded. The season had already started. If you're gonna harp on that rule, you do it before the season started. Because the kids, these are 10-year-old kids, they're playing with their friends, they grew up together. And even though those kids are pricks, that's his best friends, right? Like, this kid grew up in the same neighborhood, and you're gonna come in here and pull this kid out of his comfort zone, pull him away from his friends because you want to get a leg up on your old former coach that you have an axe to grind with. I don't like that at all. Like, if you're going to pull that, you wait till the season's over. You go and say, according to what the regulations are, the line is here and this is where he lives, and let them figure it out at that point. I thought it was an underhanded thing, and he this kid might have been crying that night and at home, and his parents trying to figure out how to get this kid wanting to play hockey again. A lot of kids might have quit at that point and not played the rest of the year. So I didn't like what he did. And when basically this Ducksworth or whatever, he said that was his best friend. They probably went to law school together or something like that. And he's in his office and he said, Gordon, this is my best friend. It's his kid. He wants to play with his friends. You got to drop your protest. That's your boss. Your boss stuck his neck on the line when you got that DUI. He made a deal with the judge to get you some leniency. He's put up with your shit.
$15,000 or something too.
Yeah, he's put up with your shit. Like,
this
guy's got any. Yeah, exactly. And he sponsored your team when you were
he
doing that.
Outfitted your team.
That's when you're like, okay, like Gordon Bombay's ego was too big for him there, and I don't blame this guy for firing him. He's like, you know what? I've given you so many chances, and you're gonna bite the hand that feeds you. Forget that. Because like if that's your best friend, you're not gonna let your best friend down. Like, hey, he comes in. My kid was crying last night. He doesn't get to spend the rest of the season with his friends, and now, don't worry, I'll make this right? So, I don't blame him. I know they were trying to villainize him in that moment. I don't think he's a villain at all in my mind.
Jamer, one more quick one. I'll be quick. Folks and listeners, Greg Goldberg. If you Google that, that's a stay away from drugs. If I've ever seen it.
Cautionary tale.
Holy cow! Yeah, just
how bad
a cautionary tale. He's a horrible goalie. He's pure Philly trash. Let's call it like it is. I'm sorry. Him and Gritty the mascot. He is Gritty. He's Gritty the mascot.
Before Gritty.
Yeah, he's Gritty before Gritty. Philly trash.
If Jakub Voracek and him had a baby, that would be Gritty. All right, let's jump into some quotes. You guys have any quotes you want to mention?
Yeah, what did I have? Well, I think the concept of cake eater, we all said during the early 90s for the next few years after. We said cake eater a lot.
Yeah.
I had breath, blood, or urine. No thanks, I'm full. Gordon.
Yeah.
That was actually a pretty funny quote. And I'll say one more, but there's a few I know. Not worth winning if you can't win big. That's a big one that was always said for years after. Even in minor hockey, he used to say in the room all the time, "Not worth winning if you can't win big." And it was like an ongoing joke. And that was like just point night. So that was one of those. Anyway, there's lots of other ones I know. So Web, fire away.
I mentioned the Hans one. That's probably my favorite, but the one that still makes me laugh to this day because it's just so ridiculous. When the kid from the Hawks, what's his name, like McGill?
Yeah.
What did you do? My job. Like, he just so bad. Like, it's so cheesy. It makes me laugh every time. Like, I must have rewound it and watched it like 4 times last night just because I was laughing so hard.
My job.
Yeah, make sure you don't have anything in your mouth when that line comes across.
Oh, yeah. With the big Jofa and the visor cage combo, and you're like, look at that thing.
Yeah.
Then
There's satellites coming
then
up.
Reed just comes and dumps him over the bench. Like, just funny.
Fulton Reed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cousin Fulton.
All right, let's get into some little known facts. So, Jake Gyllenhaal, who was actually an unknown at the time, auditioned for the role of Charlie Conway, but his parents wouldn't let him do the movie, so the producers ended up casting Joshua Jackson. Jake Gyllenhaal, that would have been interesting.
Wow.
Think-
Yeah. He'd be fine.
Interesting.
So
Joshua
Charlie
Jackson's
Sheen was,
had a pretty legit career.
yeah, he has. Charlie Sheen was offered the role of Gordon Bombay, Emilio Estevez's brother, but he turned it down, and later it went to Emilio. Bill Murray was also considered to play the role of Gordon Bombay, but he was deemed too old. I can't picture Bill Murray playing that character the way it was written.
He's too lovable.
Yeah,
He doesn't present like a slime ball.
no.
And Sheen doesn't have enough intensity sometimes where he's like, sure, whatever. You know, like Estevez can present a little more intensity sometimes. So I'll give
Well,
him
it could be because he's stoned all the time, but
touche.
Yeah, it would have been.
That's
I don't know.
game over. Yeah, that's it.
He would've had-
winning.
Sheen would have had to play it more like Major League 2 style, where he was a little bit more polished.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it would have been as good. Definitely Emilio was really good for the role. So Eldon Henson, who played Fulton Reed, and Garrett Ratliff Henson, who played Guy Germain, are actually brothers in real life. Eldon, who played Fulton Reed, had to dye his hair and change his name so that he could be cast as the brother.
Oh.
Leonardo DiCaprio auditioned for the part of Charlie Conway, but lost out to Joshua Jackson. In similar fashion, Juliette Lewis tried out for the part of Connie. What's her last name? Connie Moreau.
Moreau, whatever. Yeah.
She lost out to Marguerite Moreau.
Wow.
Some big
Leo getting upstaged by Joshua Jackson. Like, how are you not going to hold that over Leo's
I
head
know.
for the rest of your life? Every time you saw him, I'd be like, oh, let me just go live off this Disney royalty. Oh, yeah, you got an Oscar? I beat you when I was 12.
Yeah.
Catch me if you can, bitch.
Yeah. Oh, working with Martin Scorsese, are you? Still got Mighty Ducks over you.
Yeah, I'm making residuals for decades off nothing.
Yeah.
A triple deke made me triple rich.
Yeah.
So the original premise of the Mighty Ducks was actually a much darker movie with very little comedy, and it was about an ex-NHL player turned alcoholic who seeks revenge on his old coach by coaching opposite of him. The main idea stayed when Disney bought the rights to the movie, but a lot of the elements were changed, such as Bombay is a lawyer who never played in the NHL, who must complete DUI community service stuff. It had a much more of an emphasis on like adult themes in the main one, and a lot less on comedy. But obviously, it got Disneyed up. I don't think I would have liked it as much if it was kind of more of a darker one. You definitely wouldn't be having all these sequels, probably.
No.
I think it's. I mean, we'll get into some other things, but I think the tone of how it was written was done correctly. So
I agree with that.
Stephen Brill, who's a writer who wrote the script, he actually tried to pull a Sylvester Stallone and not sell it unless he got to play Gordon Bombay, but he was denied by Disney because they wanted a big name for the role. Brill ended up playing a smaller role as Gordon Bombay's first opposing counsel in court, Frank. He appears in the sequels as well. He has like little bit parts in the sequels as well. So the character of Gordon Bombay is actually derived from a combination of two well-known brands of gin, Gordon's and Bombay. Bombay Sapphire, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Both fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a neat way they did it.
It is.
So here's one for you, JR. Bombay's car is a 1991 Chevrolet Corvette C4. How you do?
Nice. Sweet ride. That was a very sweet. I don't know in Minnesota how good that'd be in the snow.
No.
The rear-wheel drive Corvette.
With your...
Throw some chains on there.
What was the license plate? Win big or
Win big or something like that. Yeah,
now?
Just win. Just win.
Just win.
Just win. Yeah, rear-wheel drive with some slicks on in Minnesota. I don't know if that's going to get you far.
No. So yeah, you kind of touched on it earlier, JR, but there's a fun little cameo by former Minnesota North Star players Basil McRae and Mike Modano. It was a fun little scene there.
Mike Modano was so cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Basil McRae was a hell of a scrapper.
He was willing. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he could
Oh
throw.
my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So Jack White was the hockey coordinator in all three Mighty Ducks movies. He's also coordinated on Youngblood and The Cutting Edge. He has a cameo in this one as the referee in the movie. So he was the referee in the last game.
Oh yeah. Oh nice.
Yeah.
Also one hell of a guitar player for the White Stripes.
Jack White, yeah. So here's a fun thing. So in that NHL game that the kids went to see, the two teams playing are the Minnesota North Stars and the Hartford Whalers, which
That's awesome. I didn't pick up on. I didn't even notice the whale. It was funny.
yeah,
I didn't either.
I didn't notice it at first either. So obviously
awesome.
both have moved on to other franchises. With the North Stars are now Dallas, the Dallas Stars, and Hartford Whalers are now Carolina Hurricanes. So there was an interesting article that I came across. So I grabbed a few notes from this article. It was a Sports Illustrated article called Flying High at 25, An Oral History of the Making of the Mighty Ducks by Sal Berry. So Jack White, as we mentioned earlier, was the hockey coordinator. He had this to say. None of these kids could skate. I'm telling you, they were just horrible. When they all auditioned, they all said they could play hockey, but none of them could. He said, so when we got them all dressed up, they skated around the ice for the first time, they were like literally falling down, and some of them could barely stand. It was hilarious. So now I had to develop these kids into hockey players. So they gave me 6 weeks to try to make them into like plausible hockey players. And you can see in the scenes that like at the beginning of the movie where they actually have the actors and you can see their faces and stuff. But later on in the movie, they ended up using doubles when they actually get better. Mm-hmm. So they used a lot of kids. And in the next thing from Jack White, he mentions he's talking about the doubles. Each actor had 4 doubles, 4 skating doubles. Wow. He said we had to have so many because we were filming in Minnesota in the middle of the hockey season. And a lot of these doubles were playing a lot of hockey at that time. So literally we'd have a scene with like 3 or 4 actors. And we would just call up, we'd start going through the list of doubles. And like, you know, the first couple might have a game that they can't make it to the set. Because in Minnesota, hockey's more important than doing a film. So it was kind of interesting. But you could see some of those doubles when they were zipping around. Like those kids could play. They were like later in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Basil McRae said that when they put Emilio, when they had that one scene with him and Mike Modano with Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
Estevez is so much shorter than them. They had to put him on a box.
That's funny.
So that's why you can only see him from the waist up. Is he's literally standing on a box, so he doesn't look like he's almost the same size as some of those kids. So
yeah,
put him on a milk crate.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I know they did that with Jean-Claude Van Damme in some of his movies. You'll see a lot of movies where when they have him with women, they don't usually show his feet. He's usually standing on something. So
like Hard Target, I think he was on. There was like I remember reading something about that. Yeah.
Sure. Let's jump into our realism review. What was realistic and what was unrealistic for you guys?
Oh boy.
Oh. I'll go with real. I'm going to start with real, guys, just to change it up a little bit here. I put real I thought one scene that was kind of real, and it was kind of like the love of hockey, was when Gordon went skating again for the first time. Yeah. You know when you get like new skates that are sharp out on a fresh piece of ice? It is a nice sound and it's fun. And you do like some tight turns and you're just that sound. To me, that was real. Yeah. Where you're trying to get the love of the game back. I'm reaching here too, by the way. But I'm trying to I'm reaching. But to me, that was some real. You know what else was kind of real that, I don't know, you guys might disagree with me, but finding figure skaters that end up being really good hockey players. Figure skaters people who took figure skating young that I grew up with were always really good skaters later in hockey. And it was even over power skaters. I found figure skaters as kids were fantastic skaters.
Yeah, all our power skating teachers were figure skaters. We had Nancy Brennan, who is Kip Brennan's mom. I don't know if she had something to do with teaching or her husband did. He was a
Oh.
principal or something. Anyway,
Okay.
and then we also had Lynn Grivich. You must have gone to school with the kids, the daughters, maybe.
Yeah, Angie Grivich, I think was her
Angie,
name
yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, vaguely remember.
Lynn was a figure skater too. They were great teachers, like really good power skating. We had a lot of kids that did really well coming out of their teaching.
And a couple other things I had was the crazy hockey atmosphere. We've talked about that tons. We know that. Another thing was the disenfranchised people around hockey a little bit, where it's just, you're done. Those are my reels. Fake. Oh boy. The limo. I'll just go on a couple. I'll let you guys go on some. The limo at practice. Put your helmet on, for the love of God. I don't know why your helmet's always off. Let's see. 198 goals. I think you're in the wrong league. Just saying. I don't think you belong in that league at 198 goals in maybe 50 games.
You know when writers don't know anything about hockey. Sorry, just to say.
No worries.
Before you get away from that, I want to just say this one thing. You know the writers don't know anything about hockey when they say you made 192 goals. Instead of like scoring goals, you're making goals.
Yeah, but they're the same. They're the same writers who had America's #1 hockey publication publishing stories about a Pee Wee hockey team in a house league.
Yeah,
that is true.
And they
very true.
They also had the same writers in another movie who had Iceland as the best team in the world.
Yeah.
Again, then Canada lost 9-1 or something.
Yeah. Not to mention, a house league team has its own rink and own banners. House league team, but plays in the state championship somehow.
And Trinidad and Tobago seems to have a pretty decent team too.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'll wrap it up. The last one too, like no masks at practice. When they practice with no masks on, they're like 11.
Yeah,
they're practicing with eggs. What do they need masks for?
Anyway, I could go on for the whole movie. I'm trying to really just be as fair as humanly possible. Webb, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I won't. I gotta have. No, I gotta go. I gotta stay on brand here. Grumpy Web. Here we go.
Yeah.
Things that I did like, the twigs. Obviously, we talked about like the equipment. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing with the equipment. So the Ducks finally get all their uniforms, right? Blue, yellow, green. They go with the mallard look. What color are their gloves?
The red gloves.
Red and white gloves. What the fuck is that? Sorry, wardrobe guy. Get gloves that match the rest of your gear. Sorry.
We always wondered that as kids too.
Oh like, my God, what are you doing?
Do Ducks have red feet?
Yeah. What do I got? I'm still trying to figure out all these years later how the Hawks are champs when this is a glorified house league. The equipment that the District 5 team is playing with. Pretty sure that Charlie Conway is playing with a plastic road hockey stick blade at one point. The Jofa buckets that every kid in this movie has are absolutely awful. Goldberg as the goalie, literally hiding from the puck, not happening. Coach Ryan cheering on the cross check after Conway whiffs on the puck, calling kids pansies. So over the top. The way that Bombay holds the stick when he's in the practice for the first time, you can tell Emilio Estevez has never even touched a hockey puck, probably. We talked about Fulton can't skate, so let's throw him on blades and throw him through the mall. Kids saying you being a Duck, you have no fucking choice. Your equipment was shit. You're going to be a Duck whether you like it or not. Carp, does he go to concussion protocol? The guy's got a friggin' dent in his helmet.
Yeah.
America's #1 hockey publication. What else did I got here? Basil McRae just going to get him a shot with the minor league team.
Yeah,
because he was a sick Pee Wee player. What else I got? So many kids sitting on the bench with their buckets on. Like what? Hans could only dole out 6 buckets. We had to rotate them all through the kids, the lineup. The Hawks are apparently the biggest Pee Wee team ever because every single kid towers over about 4 foot over every single other player in the Ducks, other than Fulton Reed. The kid responded with "my job." Jesse with the clear interference on the second goal in the championship game. He takes out like 4 guys on the way to the net. What else I got?
Flying V.
Oh, and the flying V. Yeah, the flying V. And finally, the one thing that I really actually like about this, and it's underappreciated, I'm going to give this shout out to Mrs. Webster for this one. The fact that they didn't actually sensationalize or glorify the fact that girls were on this team. It was just a thing. And I actually really like that about this movie.
Good point. Very good point.
That's a great point, Webb. And you might remember this type of stuff, JR, but when we were kids around that age, we had girls on our team too, and they were really good because usually the girls were a bit bigger than the guys back then, or a little
They developed
taller.
earlier.
They developed because we had like Brittany Miller was like a really good player at that age, and she went on to play at like Division One, and there was a lot of really good ones, a lot of good players. So that's a really good point, Webb. They did a really good job with that.
Yeah, Lisa Betancourt, I remember her. Shout out to her. She's a teacher now too. Great soccer player too. Laura Hurd was another one. I don't know if you remember her,
Laura Hurd, yeah.
Yep.
And just some realistic stuff too. Like the rinks were on point. The minor hockey rinks were pretty much on point. It was a nice homage to the Met Center in Bloomington, Minnesota, where the North Stars used to play. They tore it down a couple years after this movie, so it was nice to kind of see that in there. The doubles did a good job, like we mentioned that earlier. I just want to give a shout out to Guy Germain's double. That kid was the best double, in my opinion. He was a stud. He was unreal. Whoever that kid was that played Guy Germain, he was unreal.
Guy Germain's the ladies' man too.
Yeah, he is.
Hey, he's just snipes.
Like all of
You know who his double probably was? It's probably like Zach Parise or somebody.
Yeah, who knows?
Say it's Zach Parise for story's sake.
Some stud.
Yeah.
He would have had to have been older than Parise. Parise would have been like 7 at the time, but yeah. The kids chirping each other is kind of fun. I mean, we used to do that stuff when you're that age, right? The rivalries between the hockey teams. You guys already kind of touched on the politics and stuff like that. The asshole coaches that you get sometimes. Fulton Reed being the kid who had a cannon in Pee Wee, that was realistic. There was always a kid that hit puberty early that had just bombs and dominated, right? The gear was really good for the movie, and I love that era of gear, like the Cooper SK2000 helmet. With
Gear was unreal.
Like that was the Eric Lindros 1981 World Juniors look. I love that.
The visors were good in this one.
Yeah,
my Cooper helmet back then was white, and I had black sides on it. And we change it up. Oh, those things are great.
That half cage, half visor iTech mask. That was like a big deal in '92, and I remember playing a team in summer hockey. It was the Syracuse Stars, and they had Tim Connolly, and I remember he had that mask. It was sick. I wanted one of those masks so bad. Just good look at the time. They had the Vaughn pads, Easton aluminum sticks, tackle pants. Those roller pucks were a big deal back then.
Yeah,
the aluminum sticks. The aluminums would have been like kind of fresh on the market then too, right?
Yeah.
Like Gretzky was the first big name to be using that, from what I remember.
Yep.
That shopping spree scene like introduced a lot of gear. Like how Mario 3 was introduced on the Wizard. The same idea. It was like the let of all those.
They paid a lot of bills with that scene, I think.
Yeah.
Those Hawks uniforms are sick too. I like those unis. Unrealistic. All right.
Here we go.
Webb, you already nailed a lot of ones that I had as well.
So wait, before you go into it, so somebody please clarify this for me. Is this a house league? I to this day I can't understand how this isn't a house league. They're playing in the same city.
This is my next point on that, because they actually show a map of it when he shows the districts, and one of the teams that they play earlier is West Duluth. So if you look at a map of Minnesota, Duluth is like right up north near the Canadian border.
Yeah, I know.
So this is they mention at the end it's the state Pee Wee championship. So they're talking about Minnesota. It's not house league. This is a rep league. It's supposed to essentially be like AAA, basically.
So how do they have a AAA team that's playing in football helmets?
That's what I mean. Like that's completely unrealistic.
Go, Dave Carp back there.
Holy Christ!
Yeah, there's
Peter, the Fonz double. That's like 2'3".
No, there's no way that a rep team from Minneapolis is going to be that bad. There's just no way.
No.
They can barely stand up, and there's no way that the kids are going to be as bad as they were at the start of the movie, and then like 2 to 3 months later, they're like studs. Like the kids at the Ducks, the way they're playing at the end of the movie, they're buzzing, right? And we already talked about like the gear at the beginning. There's no way you're not allowed to play in that gear. Remember back in the day, we couldn't. If you didn't have your neck guard on properly, you got like tossed from the game, basically.
Yeah, you had to have that stamp on there. Remember, you had to have a certain thing on there.
Exactly.
Helmet had to have the CSA seal, the whole bit.
Yeah.
In
And your
92,
neck
they
guard
were-
had to have a thing.
They were big sticklers on equipment. Like, you're not wearing an oversized football helmet on the ice. Averman's wearing a cardigan as a jersey.
Furman's awesome.
And also, like, these kids who, like, the only parents we really see are Charlie Conway's parents and Jesse. Halls. So we're a lot of these kids.
Paul's dad gave up overtime for this.
Right, like a lot of these kids are from a tough area of town, right? And there's no way they're able to afford rep hockey. Only the cake eaters are at this point, right?
Right.
So and like the multiple times, like having the open net and skating around the net for the wraparound. Like, how many times did that move happen in the movie? It's just stupid. Like, that's just somebody writing the movie that has no idea what they're talking about. They're keeping these moves. The triple deke's a lame move. It's really just stick handle. Stupid, obviously.
What about Banksy's post move and that when he's right in front of the net and goes one-handed underneath the guy with the backhand on the stick? He does the like backhand. He's like fronting the goalie this, and he turns her. And...
Yeah. So the Ducks squeak into the playoffs, but somehow they don't play the Hawks until the finals. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
No seeding going on.
No.
That'd be 1 versus 8.
Right. You already talked about the rollerblading scene. McGill cross-checks Banks. Hurts him so bad that they need a stretcher to take him off the ice, but he only gets a 2-minute minor. That wouldn't happen. Charlie going buckets off for the penalty shot at the end of the game wouldn't be allowed. But,
how awesome would that actually be, though, with your flow going? That'd be so awesome. And scoring and doing like a big celebration.
Oh, yeah.
With no helmet on.
He's on the bench like this, the water bottle flicking the hair.
Yeah. You'd feel so cool.
Oh, yeah.
No helmet, and that cold air in your face, you'd be the man.
Yeah, and like Gordon Bombay quitting hockey at age 10, doesn't play for 20 years, and then somehow fucking Basil McRae gets him a contract in the American Hockey League. Like, no, not happening.
Let me just call. I know a guy.
You know what Sorry.
Here's a small one. Why is Adam Banks' dad still wearing his Hawks team jacket in the final game? Like, buy a new jacket, you cheap fuck. You're loaded. You're from Edina.
You know, because he's a Mississauga hockey dad who just can't let go. That's exactly what he is.
Refers to his kid by his draft year.
Yeah, Banksy's a draft year kid. He's an 80.
Banksy's at 80. Banksy's a 99.
Yeah.
So Banksy would be about an 83. That's it. Would he be 83, 81?
He would have been an 81 or an 80 back then, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be 80, 81. Oh, yeah.
This isn't an unrealistic thing, but it was just when they started using Cokes for the champagne shower, as a parent, did you just like cringe?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
the stains everywhere.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not, that's so sticky, it's going to be gross.
It's going to be sticky. That's exactly what I said to Melissa. I said to Melissa, I'm like, that'd be so sticky.
It would be so gross.
You know what I had, Jamer? One thing to fake was, I talked about Emilio going out for that skate. When he lifted his leg to tie his skate, no one lifts their left leg while they tie their skate. I'm sorry. That is the fakest thing I ever saw. I forgot to mention that. Who does that? You do not lift your leg and tie your skate. Anyway, sorry.
And he also tied them. That's like the loosest skate tying I've ever seen.
Yeah.
With shoelaces. His skate laces were shoelaces, too.
Yeah. Let's jump into the soundtrack. So the music was composed by David Newman. In his 25-year career, Newman scored over 100 films, including War of the Roses, Bowfinger. That actually had a wicked soundtrack, Bowfinger.
Bowfinger, I remember that. Ghetto Superstar was on that one.
Yeah, it was. The Nutty Professor, The Sandlot, and Tommy Boy. So pretty good career. He's the son of 9-time Oscar award-winning composer Alfred Newman, and he's the cousin of our boy Randy Newman. Pretty good family.
Yeah,
not too bad.
What do you guys think of the soundtrack?
Lots of good. I saw some Queens. Sorry, Webb, to steal a term. Stadium songs. That was great. Hockey music. The Good Vibrations. That'll forever be in my head.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's one of my favorite scenes. So I'm going to be really quick on this one. The soundtrack that made my soundtrack, because that as a child is one of the best scenes I could ever think of. At that age, walking into a hockey store and buying whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
The whole outfitting, I think that's awesome. So I kind of have a romantic notion to myself about that part. And good stadium songs was fine for me.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to really add, JR. You kind of hit the head on the nail there, or hit whatever the expression is. Anytime you can put Queen on a soundtrack, that's an A+ for me. So well done.
Yep. I don't have much to add. So let's jump into our wrap-up. Where does this movie rank among all-time hockey movies, and where do you have it among all-time sports movies?
Okay, as much as I've ripped on this, it still to me has to be pretty high in the hockey movies because of the cultural impact it had. It essentially created an NHL hockey team.
Yeah.
The Disney factor of it. I can't remember when I watched this, but I remember literally back in 1992 sitting there with a guy I used to play minor hockey with, and I hadn't watched Mighty Ducks yet. And I said, "What's Mighty Ducks like?" He said, "It's stupid, but it's funny." I remember the quote really well. And we were in fifth grade, whatever we were in. Stupid, Jordan's stupid, but it's funny. Watch it. And I was like, okay. So I think the impact of it, the quotes that you'll always say of it, it has to be somewhere up pretty high. I don't have it at 1, not 2, not 3. I might have it at 5 because of the impact it had with me and the era it came out in our age now. I think we always will have Mighty Ducks and the quotes that we'll take from it and just the scenes of it. Overall, it's my job, all that kind of stuff. It's further, further down. It's further down overall, but in hockey, it's up there pretty. It's up pretty good. Overall, it's down, and that's my job.
Webb's grumpy face saying my job.
My job.
Got the giant beard.
Hockey movies, I'm going to put it at 3. I think I had Miracle at 4, so I have to put it at 3. For a lot of the same things you touched on, JR, the fact that, it spawned an NHL team. I like the fact that, it had sequels, right? And I actually think the sequels are kind of better than the original in this case.
D2 for sure.
D2 for sure. Good. I actually like D3 where they go to college a little bit.
It's actually the most realistic.
Yeah. So, it launched the career of whatever his name is there, Josh Jackson, pretty well too. So, there's some good Canadian kid there. So I like that.
Pacey. Yeah. Call him Pacey if you want to.
Well, okay. And I like I said earlier, the fact that they include girls in this one as no big deal. And then Julie the Cat in the second one, and then Russ in the second one too, like the African American piece in the second one. That's big. So, I think it's probably 3. Just because of that kind of staying power. And I mean, it's anybody our age or even younger, right? Kids know it still today. Any hockey teams watching it on a bus and they're still getting a kick out of it. So, I'll say it's at 3 for me. It's ahead of Miracle. But yeah, as an adult, I don't know if I'll ever watch it again without having to watch it with a group of kids or something like that. So all time, I don't know. It might make top 50. I don't know if I'd want to watch it again, but in terms of like ranking other sports movies, I think I'd probably have to put it in the top 50.
Yeah. I've got it at number 8 in hockey movies. And I've got it somewhere between 80 and 100 probably in my all-time. And like I said, like, as much as there's a lot of like goofy, unrealistic stuff, and you touched on it earlier, JR, it's a funny movie. It's fun. Like I'll always have, like, Cleo wanted to watch it. I have no problem putting it on again and like having some fun with it because it's an enjoyable movie, right? Like
Cleo watched some of it with me.
You know what you're gonna get with it.
Yeah,
it's like comfort food, right?
It is
like having a box of Kraft dinner. You know it's really not good for you, but you're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah. Not good for you. Yeah, like Roger Ebert actually had a pretty good quote during his review of it. He said that The Mighty Ducks is the kind of movie that might have been written by a computer program. It tells a story that has been told time and time again about the misfit coach who's handed a team of kids of losers and turns them into winners while redeeming himself. Even the usual characters are there. The opposing coach who persecuted the hero when he was a kid, the kid who has a divorced mom that the hero falls in love with, the tough rebel kid who needs to channel his anger. And actually, when I was watching it this time, one thing kept standing out to me. I've seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears.
There it is.
Kelly Leak is full.
Except Bad News Bears is way better.
Yeah, because Bombay's a more polished buttermaker. Fulton Reed's Kelly Leak. Charlie Conway's Amanda Wurlitzer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that being said,
there's not as many story holes in Bad News Bears as there is in this one.
No.
Who do you have as Tatum O'Neal or not Tatum?
Amanda Wurlitzer? That's
the shortstop. The mouthy kid, little
Tanner.
blonde kid. Tanner,
That's
sorry, yeah.
he's the kid.
He'd be Averman.
The little mouthy
Haberman,
kid.
maybe?
No,
Averman
not
or Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Averman's probably. There's another kid that's kind of annoying that's not very good. They're all not very good, but. So let's jump into our draft this week. So week, our draft this week is going to be, and we're going to keep in line with the movie that we just did, the best movie roles played by either a Sheen or an Estevez family member. So the best movie roles played by a Sheen or an Estevez family member. And I think I have first pick, do I not?
You
Yeah,
do.
you first, Webb second, me third.
Well, I think I'd be doing this whole thing an injustice if I didn't lead off with a home run and take Captain Benjamin L. Willard from Apocalypse Now, played by Martin Sheen, the patriarch of the family. That's my pick.
Good pick.
Great pick, Jamer.
Oh.
You know what the funny story, Jamer? At work today, I said to Webb, I go, Jamer is first pick. And I go, he's picking Apocalypse Now. Just lock it in now. Lock it in. I said to Webb, I go, at 8 o'clock this morning, I go, Jamer will pick Apocalypse Now. How is he not?
It's a great. First of all, it's a great movie.
Lock it in.
It's a great soundtrack. I have the album. I have it on vinyl.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Good pick, James.
Yeah.
All right, I got next. Who I got? I got quite the list here. I kind of want to do a twofer, but I feel like you guys won't let me.
There's a bunch of twofers with these guys.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I kind of wanted to go. Oh, geez. No, okay, here we go. I'll go with Emilio Estevez as Andrew Clark in The Breakfast Club.
Good
You
pick.
mowed my grass. That was going to be my first. My pick.
It's tough, tough ones, but I got other ones down in the pipe that I think I'm going to try and sneak in here. So I'll go with that one as number one.
That's a good pick.
All right. So I'm going to go. So I get two in a row. I'm also going to go with Emilio because I love these movies, baby. I love Billy the Kid and Young Guns. I love Young Guns movies. I love them. They're the best. So I'm going to go with Young Guns movies.
Hey,
both
before
one
you
and
move
two.
on, before you move on,
yeah,
I saw when I was researching, they're doing a new Young Guns movie.
What? Come on. Of
Called
course they are.
It's called Guns 3.
Is Lou Diamond Phillips in it?
I don't know. They haven't announced any other characters other than Emilio. Emilio's acting in it, and he's also a writer and producer or something.
That's great.
Sure. Even if it sucks, I don't care.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
My favorite movies back in the day.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Charlie Sheen. Lots for Charlie Sheen. I'm gonna leave things open, a lot open for you guys. But this movie, growing up, he doesn't have a huge role in it, but it's an iconic role. And if you watch, the Goldbergs, he recreates this role again.
You fucker!
Great
so
pick.
I'm gonna go with Ferris Bueller, where he's the guy at the jail,
boy in the police station.
Yeah, he's talking to Jennifer Grey. And if you watch the Goldbergs, they recreate this scene.
I was gonna try and sneak that one in.
I left lots of Charlie Sheen's open.
Foreshadowing to his future.
I loved it. I love that role.
All right, so that's off the board. I
got you back for the Andrew Clark Breakfast Club.
Yeah. All right. I'm going with Charlie Sheen as well. I'm going with Charlie Sheen as Topper Harley in Hot Shots Part 1 and Part 2. Simply for the line, my father used to say that not playing to win is like sleeping with your sister. Sure, she's a great piece of tail with a blouse full of goodies, but it's just illegal. Then you get to the whole inbred thing. Kids with no teeth who do nothing but play the banjo, eat applesauce through a straw, pork farm animals. I love it. Oh,
That's great.
Good pick. All right, I got two now. So I'm gonna go with a movie that I just loved growing up. I thought he kicked the shit out of this role too. I'm going with Charlie Sheen as Bud Fox in Wall Street.
Great.
Love that movie. And then I love the cameo that him and Michael Douglas have in the second Wall Street with Shia LaBeouf. The Wall Street never sleeps or something like whatever it is.
Yeah. Money never sleeps.
Yeah, and what was the line they had? They were always talking about the stock that burned them. Endicott Steel loves
Endicott Steel.
Yeah.
Endicott Steel loves something I can't remember. Anyway, and with my second pick, I'm kind of going off the board here. This was a movie that it used to scare me as a kid, but I always loved it too. I'm going with Emilio Estevez as Bill Robinson in Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. Do you guys remember that movie?
Yeah, I do.
Vaguely.
I never watched it though. It was super scary.
I remember, like, as a kid,
My oldest sister had it around.
yeah, like my sister would watch scary movies
yeah.
or something, or like my parents or something, and I would like hide around the corner and watch them like when I was supposed to be in bed, and then have nightmares for like weeks. But I remember watching this movie like secretly and just being terrified. It was a good movie. It was like where aliens basically took over all the electronics on Earth, and anything that had a motor or electronics, and they started turning on everybody and killing everybody. And like Emilio Estevez was like kind of the hero in it, and they all get hoarded into this truck stop, and then all the trucks were like circling outside because they're being controlled by the aliens trying to kill them. So, and they had to save the world. Corny movie, but it was good.
All right, I'm gonna be that guy. I don't care. I'm gonna do it. You guys can call foul on it or not. I'm going Carl Taylor and James St. James as Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen for Men at Work. Simply because
It's allowable.
Simply because I can't differentiate between the two of them for that movie. And I mean, because Lewis is the best in that movie. And he has the one line that we still quote every single time at the golf course. Our buddy, shout out to our skip, Mark Soderman, who every time he finds a tee on the ground says, somebody threw away a perfectly good white boy every single time. So, and then, of course, golf clap. So I'm going with my last pick. I'm taking them both.
Nicely done.
Fantastic pick.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, there's a lot of great movies on the board. But you know what? It doesn't matter because we're going to go back to The World's Greatest Little Island. And it's a Martin Sheen role. Martin Sheen, believe it or not, you guys may not know this, but he actually played Matthew Cuthbert in Anne of Green Gables. So I'm going to go...
Oh my God.
I'm going Matthew Cuthbert, Martin Sheen. I love you, Prince Edward Island, and Anne of Green Gables. You are the greatest island in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I don't worry about The Departed. Doesn't matter about The Departed. Nope. Doesn't matter about Catch Me If You Can. Doesn't matter about The Departed. I'm going Martin Sheen, Anne of Green Gables, baby.
Oh my God, Jay.
Rick Wild Thing Vaughn is left on the shelf.
Platoon
How
got left. Doesn't matter.
Chris and Platoon?
Platoon got left. Eight men out.
Yeah, that was a good one. You know what else I had was Estevez as Kirby Keeger in St. Elmo's Fire. Great soundtrack.
Great movie.
You know what? I
Great
remember
movie.
the soundtrack more than I remember the actual movie.
Yeah. I've got that vinyl too.
If you want to watch a good one again, watch that one again. It's pretty solid.
How about Emilio Estevez as 2-Bit Matthews?
Outsiders. I have lots of Martin Sheen that have like The Departed. There's a movie I like, Gettysburg, where he plays Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
He's great in that role. There's lots of good ones. Catch Me.
Did
If
we
You Can.
mention Queenan?
Queenan, The Departed.
Queenan? Yeah.
I just quickly said The Departed, but I didn't say Queenan from The Departed. But
You know what else my other honorable mention was? Jamer, you'll for sure remember this movie because it was on TMN or whatever, the movie network, all the time when we were kids. Charlie Sheen is as Jack. I had to write it down. Jack Hammond in The Chase. So where he like robs Christy Swanson. Yeah, at the gas station, and they go on like basically the OJ chase.
She was a rocket back.
Oh my God, yeah. At the end of the movie, I just remember they're like in the
Buffy
sunset.
the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer too. Yeah, and then she got all crazy.
And he robs her with like a candy bar. He like holds her up with a candy bar.
She got arrested at the Merchant here in Kingston. She got in a fight with, at the Merchant. Anyway, I won't get into details, but you can look it up. So let's wrap this baby up. Tell them where to hit us up, Webb.
All right, thanks everybody for listening and engaging with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. You can hit us up on Instagram at Big League Flicks and on Twitter. Sorry, at Big League Flicks Pod, and on Twitter at Big League Flicks. You can also check us out on TikTok, where you'll see Brucey the dog, and check us out on YouTube as well.
Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Cheers.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Be safe.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe.
Big League Flicks, Jordan, Christian, and Jammer talking movies about sports and the glitz and the glamour. Got a cold beer pairing for the leading lady staring. Fun facts and trivia and man rocket comparing. Soundtracks and music, they'll rate all these things. Was it real or did they lose us as the fat lady sings? Talking junk, have a giggle, comedy, drama, romance. Did the film deliver 6 to noon in my pants? With their big bag of tricks, these podcast critics, Jordan, Christian, and Jammer with Big League Flicks. Jordan, Christian, and Jammer with Big League Flicks. Jordan, Christian, and Jammer.